if we believe that now, post Christ's death on the cross, we have a high priest that is Christ, then why do you then argue that we should not tithe when it doesn't make sense? No. But first of all, here it talks about the fact that Christ receives tithes in heaven, right? Of course, symbolically, because there's no money that is transported, but it's symbolic. God has said that to give to me, you must put it in this bank account. But it's the bank now, the church.
Yes.
It's the bank now that's messing things up, right? It's stealing the money, maybe not stealing. I'm using this carelessly, so we're not saying that the church is stealing. Although some local churches, the call of evangelism is to everyone.
For everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now we're talking money. So
It only goes to them.
yeah, so so now we're saying, okay, so
They are on that advantage.
besides so the idea is, because now we're talking money and salary, right? Then the expectation for them or from them, our expectation for them is a bit higher than what we're getting, right? So the point I'm making is that during that time, my brother, they were hard workers. Some of them had pneumonia and died having pneumonia because of the hard work they were doing. But today, we don't have that. She returned her last cent, even to a system that did not take care of her, right?
Yeah.
Because the system did not, because again, she was supposed to be given something, because tithe was supposed to give to the poor. But she never received anything. Instead, it was going to the pockets of these priests and so forth.
So I have a very controversial question before we get too deep into the conversation.
Sure.
To say, let's take for instance, if the church was to stop paying the preachers. In your own viewing, even you, Mr. Mandaza, to say, in your own thinking, how many do you think will remain pastors?
Yeah. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. I don't know, man. Because now we are seeing most people are in it for money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, even to just say, okay, we need a pastor, we need you to come and preach. They will start to ask for money.
And they still get paid.
And they are still getting paid from the conference, and so I don't get it. But I don't know. It feels like we have a lot of hypocrisy amongst pastors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of them now, they are in it for money.
Okay.
That's me.
Mfundo, what do you think?
That's
How many
me.
do you think will remain pastors?
So, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Maybe let me lay a foundation
Yeah.
to my answer in this way. That, firstly, I don't think necessarily that they get paid a lot, right? The pastors, right?
All right.
So, I don't think necessarily the reason they are pastors is for the payment, but but
Yeah.
I think a lot of them enjoy the popularity, the spotlight, the fame, the celebrity situation, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're right. You're right.
You
Actually, I
want
never.
get
Yeah.
a celebrity. Yeah.
They have a celebrity situation, so I think they enjoy that, right? And some of them are eloquent speakers, right? So very good speakers. But that I don't necessarily mean. I don't necessarily think that just because you're an eloquent speaker, you are then should be a pastor.
Yeah.
So I think personally, I think that should the conferences decide, but we're not paying any of them, a lot of them would leave. They will leave. A lot of them would leave. Because I think the fact, Jay, man, it's comfortable. It's a comfortable lifestyle.
It is. Especially in our church, it is.
Yeah.
It's relatively comfortable. Of course, they're not rich. They're not living, lavish lifestyles, but it's comfortable. So it's like you're like a teacher or a nurse or social worker. So you're like a normal professional, right? As a pastor. So it's comfortable. So if that salary were to be taken away, my brother,
They will fail off, eh? Most of them.
a lot of them would. Yeah.
It makes sense with, I think on your last podcast, there was this other controversial controversial one in Kenya. Like 19 pastors
Oh,
that were-
got fired. And the way they were complaining, I was even asking myself, okay, I understand it's no one wants to get fired.
Yeah.
But with the way they were complaining, it's like they were actually in it for employment. So it's no longer like it's a calling. You want to be in ministry to serve people. It's now about
Yeah.
so it's
So it has
it's a thin line.
it has become
Yeah.
to some extent about employment now, in the sense that some pastors don't even study anything else
Except that.
except this, so that they're employed by the church. And that's what I mean by it's about employment, being employed in the church. Because I think had
Yeah.
they had an interest, say, to preach the gospel, they could study something else on the side
Yeah.
and get income right on the side,
Yeah.
but work for the Lord,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In without necessarily getting or
Anything,
expecting
yeah,
a life-changing salary. Not life-changing, maybe that's an exaggeration, but a salary that would sustain
Yeah.
their lives.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe it's like Paul. Paul was a tent maker, right?
Yeah.
So
A very good
he-
example, yeah.
So he did not depend on the church necessarily. Although he did say it, he would say sometimes, but no, you can give me something, or you must give me something just to say thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not an obligation, number one, it's just an offering. But also number two, he does not depend on it, right?
Yeah.
So then that on its own makes his ministry very genuine. Because
Yes.
he can speak against powers, right, that be, because he's not employed by the powers that be. He does not depend on them for salaries. So
Yes,
if let's say you are the GC president, right?
Yeah.
And I'm employed by the church. Now I can't say certain things against
Because
you.
there's a-
Against
Because you
the
are
church,
my
yes. Yeah, you are my
employer.
boss, so Yeah.
So the minute there's employment, it
shaky.
kind of
it's very tricky.
it becomes a bit tricky, because you want to have financial independence but still contribute and have a strong ministry, right? And in so doing, your ministry would be genuine. You speak against power sometimes, speak truth to power, but at some point, without any fear.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we started here because we're gonna be discussing tithe and offering money. Anyways, Lacha Locha, welcome to it. This is Rhythm and Chance. Now, I want us to start off maybe to define for someone who doesn't understand or know what is tithe and offering. How can you best explain to someone who doesn't know tithe and offering?
Okay, so tithes and offering, I'll refer to a couple of verses that I've just noted down here.
Yeah.
So essentially, tithes and offerings. So let me start with tithe.
Yeah.
Right. So tithe is a tenth of your increase, right? Your increase in wealth, in income, in whatever. But essentially, a 10% of that increase, right? For example, if you're a farmer, right, you're farming this year, right? Let's say you have cattle, to make it a very easy example.
Yeah.
Let's say you have cattle, and then of course you have, let's say your cattle have 10 calves.
Yeah.
Little cattle.
Yeah.
So that the 10th one belongs to the Lord, right? And that would be your increase. That's the whole idea around the increase, right? From your base to the increase, right? So a 10% of that increase, right, is the Lord's.
Okay.
So even in terms of your harvest, right, every year 10% of your harvest, because that's your increase, 10% of that would belong to the Lord. In fact, during the time of the ancient Israel, right, some of them, because it was an agricultural economy, an agrarian economy, unlike now where we have financial services and all sorts of advanced tech. So because of that, then typically their offerings or their tithe was related to agriculture. So, grain, oil, olives and fruits and just vegetation, produce, right? Livestock and so forth. But now, where does it come from? Those are the texts I want to then talk about now, to give, because I want to also talk about the theology
All right.
of tithing itself, and not just talk about it at a very high level. I want to go a bit deeper, right? So the first time we actually hear the word tithe in the Bible would be Genesis 14 verse 20. I want to read it here, and just for context, so Lot, the nephew of Abraham, had been captured, and so Abraham organizes an army, and then he rescues Lot, and then he basically claims the spoils, so to speak, of the war, right? So he claims, he takes all the things that are left, right? So they are gold, they are cattle, they are whatever. That is the people that they'd come to not invade, but from whom they are rescuing Lot. Now, on his way back home, he then passes by a gentleman called Melchizedek. Melchizedek is a priest. He's a king of Salem, as well as the priest of the living God, the God we serve. So and the Bible only speaks about it. It hardly ever speaks. In fact, that was the first time Melchizedek is mentioned, and elsewhere he's only mentioned in Psalms and so forth, and then of course Hebrews. But he's hardly ever mentioned. We don't know where he comes from. We don't know anything about him. Just the fact that he's a priest of the Lord, right? So now then Abraham then gives a tithe to the gentleman. So let me just read the text now. Genesis 14 verse 20, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands. And he gave him, that is, he being Abraham, gave him, Melchizedek, a tithe of all. Right? So this is the first time we actually hear about tithe. The second one, of course, is I won't read this one, but it's Genesis 28 verse 22, where Jacob again is sleeping. He's running away. Firstly, he messed up at home. He betrayed his brother, took his, and then he's running away, and so he's sleeping, and then there's a ladder in his dream, and then when he wakes up, right, he promises that he will give God a tenth, right?
Okay.
And the reason I'm mentioning, the third time is now in Leviticus. This is now a command. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because, although it's interesting, because a lot of people think that the concept of tithing is only a command that God begins to give only at some point. But when you read the Bible, it seems that no. Abraham knew about tithing, although the Bible does not record him tithing until this point, right? And the reason for that matter that it's even mentioned here, in specifically around Melchizedek, is because of the significance of what he's doing. Not because it's because now it's significant. Every other tithe that Abraham was offering to the Lord or was returning to God is not mentioned in the Bible, but only this one, when he offers or returns tithe to the Lord through Melchizedek. And then Hebrews chapter 7 speaks about that, right? That Melchizedek is a type of Christ, and Melchizedek being a king and priest, Christ also being a king and priest. Things like that. I don't want to get into that, but it's essentially that's what tithing is all about. Now, in terms of theology, right? What does tithe mean? It means, number one, it's an expression of faith, right? That I trust God. God is the source of life. Right. And I trust him enough to know that I don't depend on money or wealth or any other substance in life, right, for existence. It is him that I trust. And so hence you give a tenth, right, of your income to him, right? That's the whole idea. But that on its own is even deeper, in the sense that it is not the first time that we see God claiming a portion of something, because even with the Sabbath is a tithe, right? In the sense that God has given us 6 days, but the seventh is his, right? Even firstborns, firstborn sons, right? God has claimed that all the firstborn sons are mine and are holy unto the Lord, right? So although you have many other kids, but the firstborn, if you have the firstborn child who is a son, right? Then that one is holy unto the Lord. So you see a lot of tithes, right?
Yeah.
In different forms, but all of them, they express the same message, right? That we trust God enough to know that although He's given us all these things, we don't depend on them.
Yeah.
Right? We don't depend on labor, because the Sabbath, the whole idea around the Sabbath is around labor and rest. So I don't depend on my labor. I depend on the sustenance of God. Although I must labor, of course, as a human being, God requires me that labor, but it's not my source of life. My source of life is God, and hence I must rest to show that, okay, now I'm pausing because I don't need to work to live. You, as God, are the source of life. So that's the whole theology. It's an expression of faith, essentially, when you return tithe. You're expressing faith that I don't depend on these material things, these things that God has created. I depend on God, and so I give it to you.
Yeah. Mr. Mandas was playing with his phone, so maybe it's something.
No. I was listening to when he was explaining, and this is very profound, man.
Yeah.
Very profound, and he gave good examples, especially the one for Melchizedek and Abraham, giving tithe. I wanted to go somewhere which is also very interesting, because how I understand tithe is it's something which is holy, which is the untouchable. So I want to give another example. Because we think tithe, as he was saying, it's just something which we just see, when we move on in the Bible. If I could give an example of Adam, remember he was told to eat everything, but the tree of knowing good and evil don't touch.
Okay.
So again, we are learning something here. So it's sort of like a tithe. Tithe, like what he was saying, it's faith. God is testing your faith on Him. So it's not something which we are supposed to touch. We don't have to touch it. So it's holy. Tithe for me is the holy, the untouchable. So that's another example. So you see, it's starting way back, even in the creation. God was teaching us, this lesson for tithe. And if we move, let me go to, I have my notes here.
Yeah.
Like if we go to, where is this now? All right. It's Matthew 23, verse 23. I don't want to read it, but Jesus here also, he was trying to show something. He said, Jesus called out the hypocrisy, emphasizing justice, mercy, and faithfulness alongside tithing. So we see even the faithfulness of people when it comes to tithe. It shows that how loyal are you to God, or how do you listen to God when God says something? How is your response? So there it also shows the loyalty we have towards God. It's not really about me giving to say, okay, tithe. Though it's essential, we have to. But the loyalty, God is always looking for the loyalty towards Him. If He says something, how are we responding? All
right, you just answered a question that I didn't ask, to say, why should people give tithe? I feel like it's all about being faithful and being obedient to what God is saying to us as people. So therefore it does answer the question to say, why then shall one offer or return the tithe and offering? So now there's also maybe a question that I would like us to address, to say, should we say tithing is a command, or rather is it an obligation to give back the tithe? Or it's optional. Many people might be confused in the sense of saying, maybe I can give, maybe this month I won't give, next month I won't give. Maybe I want someone to know that, is it obligational or rather optional to one as individuals?
Oh,
So I think in simple terms, tithing is an obligation in the sense that it's a command, right? You are commanded to. That one is God's. It belongs to the Lord. Just like God says, the firstborns are mine. You see this even in Luke, right? When they talk about Jesus' birth, right? They reference this idea that the firstborn sons are mine,
Yeah.
are holy to me, right? Excuse me. So the idea being that they must be dedicated to the Lord, they belong to God for His service, right? And all of that is linked to, of course, Jesus. It was a type of Jesus. So there's a very strict, a very strict what environment around tithing,
okay.
right? Because God is very particular. For that
Yeah.
matter, this is also linked to when God is dishing out, I'm using that word carelessly, the plagues in Egypt. When he kills the firstborn sons of Pharaoh, right? The exact wording there is around tithing. Is around the firstborn sons and how they are mine, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
in fact,
Yeah.
maybe let me read the text. I hope I find it. So it should be Exodus. Firstborn
Jerry.
sons.
Is it not chapter 11?
I hope it is. But I think there's somewhere where he talks about it. Ish. Somewhere where God talks about this. Okay, I may not find it now.
Yeah.
I probably won't find it now. That it happens when you're looking for something that.
They
don't
decide to
find-
run. Yeah,
But
you're
That,
right.
But
They
let me
decide
see
to
if I
do-
wrote it down. But essentially, what I wanted to say was that God links even this concept of the firstborn sons, right? Even when he's dealing with Pharaoh, he say, Pharaoh, I'm gonna save my firstborn sons
Okay.
because they are mine.
Okay.
Let's see you save yours.
E.
So I'm gonna take mine and I'm
Yeah.
gonna put them under the cover of the
door,
blood and so
yes,
forth.
Yeah, the
You
blood,
remember
yes.
the blood
Yeah,
on
when
the,
they
on
were
The door,
frame
yeah.
of the
on
door.
the
Yeah.
doorstep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cover mine, right? Let's see you with you. And I wanted to read that part, but for some reason I can't find. So the point I'm making is that it's a command. It's a very strict command.
Yes.
Another thing, right, is that tithing in its own is it almost it's almost like a type of Christ, and I'm using that carelessly again because it doesn't end with Christ, but it was like a lesson to tell us about Jesus. Why do I say that? It's because with tithe, it's a tenth, it's a portion. So because of you've offered a portion, then the rest is kind of saved, right? So one is offered, and because of this one offered, the tenth, the rest of the 90 is saved. In the sense that God says, listen, if you return tithe to me, I'm going to make sure that I flood you. That's Malachi. I flood your
Malachi.
storehouse and I flood you with so many blessings that because of this one, right, the rest is then expanded and the rest is saved and the rest is now made a blessing. So again, it speaks to that substitutive nature, right, of salvation, that because of Christ and the offering that Christ is, right, him being the tenth or the tithe of God, that he belongs to God. We give him, he's man. He's a man, of course he's man and God, but on our behalf, he's man. So we take one of man, right, and we offer him, and he is offered, right, as a tenth, as a portion to then save the rest of men. Right. So
Very interesting.
so tithe it's such a deep thing. I know typically when we study about tithe, we just think
We
that
touch
the thing is
touch,
deep.
Yeah.
It's very deep.
It's very deep. You know, maybe another sorry man.
Yeah. No. Read them.
Please give us.
Yeah.
Let it come.
This is the last text. So in Hebrews 7, I wanted to read this one. Also the Melchizedek situation. It says the Hebrews 7 verse 8, because I know some people will say, but no, tithe ended. I don't know if I'm preempting your questions, because I know some people keep saying, I know tithe ended with Christ. No, No. Read your Bible. So
Read
Hebrews 7 verse 8 says,
Yeah.
so it basically, okay, Hebrews 7, just for context, is talking about Melchizedek.
Alright.
And now he is a type of Christ in the sense that his priesthood, Melchizedekan priesthood, is the priesthood that would be typological of the priesthood of Christ.
Okay.
Because the Levite priesthood had limits in the sense that for you to be a Levite, you had to be born of a Levite, right? For you to be a priest in the Levite, you had to be born of a Levite. But Christ is not a Levite; he's a from Judah, right? So from a Levite priesthood perspective, he would not qualify as a priest.
Yeah.
But now his priesthood is linked to a priesthood of Melchizedek, who was not a Jew. He was not even related to Abraham. So he's not a son of Abraham. He's not even a father of Abraham. He's not related to him. He was a Jew, number one. Oh, sorry, he was not a Jew, Melchizedek. Also, the Bible was then saying, and I think this is probably now verse, I'm giving you some context here.
Yeah.
I think this is probably now verse, where it talks about the fact that they don't know who his parents are. Right? There's no record of his parents, as though he has no beginning nor end, because there's no record of his death, nor his. It talks about that. Let me see where it is.
It's a very interesting one.
Father, yes, verse 3. So chapter 7, verse 3. Without father and mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor an end of life, but made like the Son of God, remains a priesthood continually, right? So again, the Melchizedekan priesthood, and I'm going to link this to tithe in a moment. So the Melchizedekan priesthood then becomes a typology of the priesthood of Christ, because Melchizedek there's no record. Paul says here, there's no record of his mother or father. We don't have a record of his death. Just like Christ he has no beginning nor end, right?
Yeah.
And so then,
Makes sense.
another thing is that priests in the Levite priesthood could not be kings. So you can't have a king who's also a priest. So you can't be both. You have to come from, either it must be either a Levite or a priest, but you can't be both, right?
Yeah.
And so by that a qualification only, Jesus is disqualified because he's a king and a priest, but Melchizedek is both king of Salem and priest of the Most High God. And what's interesting is that the city, it's actually even mentioned here, right? That the city that he's a king of is called Salem, right?
Salem.
And Christ is the king of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Again, this is this is verse 2 now. It says, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth of all, speaking about Melchizedek, first being translated king of righteousness, and then also king of Salem, meaning king of peace. So again, the concept of now, which is the main verse that I wanted to read now, verse 8 then says, here, that is here on earth, mortal men receive tithes. Now, in other words, priests, they receive tithes on behalf of God in the sanctuary and so in the temple and so forth. Here, mortal men receive tithes, but there is heaven. He receives them, that's Christ, of whom it is witnessed that he lives, right? So again, that mortal men means people that die. But Christ here, who lives forever, receives tithes. Here, mortal men, people who die and who can change, because the priesthood changes from you today, 70 years later, when you die, it goes to him, it goes to you. Every year it goes to someone else, right? From Aaron to his son, to his son, to his, But with Christ, it's with him forever, right? And so, again, the idea that this is, the concept of tithing has got to be linked to Christ. Because it's the center of everything in the Bible. Because the idea of tithing is that you tithe to the priest, right? So you tithe to Christ, the high priest, right? So if we have a high priest, if we believe that now, post Christ's death on the cross, we have a high priest that is Christ, then why do you then argue that we should not tithe when it doesn't make sense. No. But first of all, here it talks about the fact that Christ receives tithes in heaven, right? Of course, symbolically, because there's no money that is transported, but it's symbolic, right? So that Christ receives our tenth here in heaven. Here on in heaven and so forth. So again, the concept that tithing has been abolished by the cross, and that's unbiblical, right? Because if we have a high priest that is Christ, then we must offer, or rather return tithe to him, as an expression of our faith in God.
It mustn't be a problem.
Exactly.
In a context of how the things are structured in almost each denomination, churches and everything, it's a structure of saying you offer, then surely in the world, like you said, the money doesn't go there, So now I want to know, what is the use in how churches are as we know it today? What is the use of the tithe and the offering? Maybe Mr. Mandaza, I don't know if you were checking something. What is the use of tithe and offering nowadays?
Definitely, if we go to Malachi 3:10, this is a famous verse. Say, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, which is the church, as you are mentioning, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. Okay. So definitely, like what you're asking, it has to do something.
Yes.
It has a job which it's supposed to do around God's people. So I think back then, especially with the priest, isn't it like the priest will receive it? So in church, or maybe let me say in the community, we've got widows, we've got people who are poor, people need to be fed, we've got all this which needs to happen. So it's doing that specific job. Because definitely we have widows, we've got orphans, people are suffering. But unfortunately, or fortunately, it's not happening.
You mean unfortunately, but fortunately, what is...
I'm just playing with the words there. But what I'm just trying to say is, because now, I think another thing, of course, people, they would want to argue with, I'm looking at for this word, maybe with the principle of it, to say, should we keep on giving or not? Or would you rather hear people saying, I cannot give to church, but I can help. I can just help you. I'm sure you've heard that. I can just help anyone in the street. But here, because remember I said tithe, it comes with the loyalty, what God said. So we are following what God is saying. Bring it to church. When you bring it to church, it's definitely going to do that job of helping. But now, if the people who are responsible of doing that, if they are not doing that, you as a person, you've done your part. And those ones who are responsible, if they are not doing it, they are now answerable to God. So this is not about you. Exactly. It's not a point of argument to say, but they are misusing it, and all those kind of things which we are seeing nowadays. But you have listened to God. He said, bring it to the storehouse, which is the church, where you can only find the priest is there. Then it has to be used. I think maybe that is where the problem is. Are we using it for what it's supposed to be doing in church? Are people being helped? Are we seeing people being helped in the church? We've got widows, orphans. Are they being helped? Is it happening?
All right.
And let me just add to what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
So fundamentally, when when God introduced the concept of tithe to Israel now,
all right.
I'm not talking about Abraham and whatever. I'm just talking about Israel now and how they are to administer it.
Yes.
In the nation of Israel and the administration and whatever. Number one, remember, when God divided land amongst the 12 tribes, Levi did not receive land.
Okay.
God said, I am your reward. I'm your inheritance. You're not going to get land. What you are going to get is the tithes of the people.
Makes sense why it was going.
So the idea is, you as Levi, right, the Levites, you will not work, you will not have land, you will not be economists and doctors and what have you. You will be focused on working in the sanctuary, right? That's your full-time job, right? That's number one. And because of that, you need to eat, you need to have income, you have families and so forth. So I am your inheritance in the sense that what is mine is going to be yours.
Okay.
That's the first principle.
Alright.
Now, and so the idea, and I'm setting this principle because I want to go to the New Testament. I'm setting in the sense that the idea there is that, number one, the reason why, and this is very fundamental, the reason why you are then given tithe as Levi is because you are not working. You're only doing the Lord's work.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? So you don't have time to do other things. You're only doing the Lord's work. Right. Then let's skip now to the new. Oh, another thing before I forget. Another thing is that, okay, as you rightly mentioned, another portion of that was to give to the poor, to make sure that there's no one who's hungry in Israel. Of course, even funding administration and other infrastructure, maintenance, and all other administrative stuff in the church. So that's one's obvious, right? But also, I just wanted to agree with him on that point that the poor and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's important to note that it is not you as the person who's returning the tithe who feeds the poor. No. It's the church that does it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you, when you return it to the Lord, and as it is returned, it's collected and then it's administered and divided among the priests and what have you, as well as the poor and the lights and fixing this and that in the church and what. Although there were no lights then, but I'm just using that creatively. So now, New Testament. In the New Testament, a lot of remember, during that time, there was no, the Christian church was not as advanced. By advanced, I mean as popular as it is now. So there was a lot of evangelistic work, a lot of it, right? So a lot of these people who were doing the evangelistic work were typically not doing any other thing. Some of them, right? Any other thing except this. Then a lot of those would then kind of need to depend on what the church offers to them, because they are evangelizing. They're not sitting 7 days or 6 days a week. They're sitting at home, and then on Sabbath they go to church to preach, and then again 6 days they sit. No. Every day they're somewhere. They're in Spain. They are in Rome. They are in Greece. They are where they are tortured. They are arrested. So then their kids need to survive, right? But others, like Paul and others, they had their own things that were doing on the side, right? So now in today's world, our pastors, and I know I'm going to be a bit critical now, our pastors, in terms of the work, the evangelistic work that the early church was doing, or the leaders of the early church was doing, I don't think they are to that extent, hey?
They're not. Like you said, might be maybe criticizing anyway, but it is factual.
It is factual, to be honest.
We can actually see
Paul traveled. And all those gentlemen with Paul, Mang Mang, and others who were working with Mang, and they were all traveling to different cities. They were tortured. They were missionaries, right? So they were never in one station, right? And that's why it made sense to send them money every now and again to help them out, right? With food and even their families that they've left behind, right? But today, so that's why I'm like, so I mean, as much as we can compare the Old Testament regime and the New Testament regime to today, but it's not entirely. But I'm not saying, I need to emphasize this. Now, I'm not saying that we must not return tithe. No.
Yes.
When I, as a Christian, it is your duty to return tithe and be faithful to God, irrespective of what others do, right? Would wish for the church, now the administration of the church, when it receives that tithe, it actually does the things that the Old Testament and the New Testament did with tithe, right? Number one, to give income to those who are fully committed to and are busy right? Not that during the week they're just chilling or whatever they do. I don't know what they do during the week.
Yeah, we don't know.
We honestly don't know. Right? There are some house visitations, but I mean,
house
I wanted to
visitations.
go
who has had a
Who?
pastor visit
Never.
there?
It's not happening.
So,
Never.
and look, again, the purpose of this conversation is not to criticize
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pastor,
No.
but it's just to be factual, right? And
Yes,
just to voice out what we think can improve or should improve,
Yes,
right?
straight.
So we'd wish that, okay, listen, they must actually, because the leaders during that time, they were evangelists, they were missionaries, they were all over the place evangelizing, and it made sense to it. But today, they're chilling at home and they're
on their-
tweeting
you
and
know,
Go to vacations.
and they go to vacation and they're on
Come
Facebook
on.
debating us there about
Hey.
about politics and
Funny
whatever.
things.
So I really, so I wanted to just to add that light that as the system is not perfect,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, during the time of the early days, right, of the church, right, the early forefathers of this church, our church, the ministers were travelers, bruh. They were evangelizing. They were never. The pastor of the church was essentially the elder.
Yes.
The person who's actually employed in the church was a missionary. They were in Europe. They were in what's
Asia,
in Asia, in that island that's also a continent and also a country. Australia. They were in Australia. They were in Africa. They came to South Africa. Or John Andrews and others.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was John Andrews who came to Africa or to South Africa, because I'm thinking him because there's his name. There's a building at Helderberg that's named after him.
Okay.
But I can't remember. I remember. But I know. But John Andrews, I know he was in Europe, so I don't know if
He did, yeah.
But there was someone in any event who came
Yeah.
to Africa who was Adventist and so forth. So the point I'm making is that during that time,
They were working.
my brother,
Yeah.
they were hard workers.
Yeah.
Some of them had pneumonia
Yeah.
and died
Hey.
having pneumonia because of the hard work they were doing. But today, we don't
Yeah,
have
no,
that.
we
And
don't.
it changed at some point, right?
Yeah.
They said, no, let's have pastors administrate the church and run local churches now and focus on local churches. And then evangelism started
Yeah.
dropping.
went
and
down.
Yeah.
It's fun what you
Drink
say
man.
because honestly, this is bad. Because I've
Yeah.
seen that, during my days when I'm still growing. Yes, I know, and I'm still young and whatnot. But I remember there was a time when back in Limpopo we used to do this thing called crusade. I remember we worked so much than the actual pastor. When you do a crusade, it should be 3 weeks. So in that 3 weeks, we'll be going out, doing door to doors, having feedbacks from the people and all those things. And the pastor will just come preach for that 1 hour home until the Sabbath. So you are very, very right.
Yeah.
It's not that we are criticizing, but it's true. They are not really working in ways that pastors should be.
And for that matter, we're not necessarily saying, and this must be clear also, we're not necessarily saying that the members should not work, right, or evangelize, because the call of evangelism is to
It's
everyone.
for everyone.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But now we're talking
Money.
Money.
So
It only goes to them.
yeah, so so now we're saying, okay, so
They are on that advantage.
besides that, so the idea is, because now we're talking money and salary, right? Then the expectation for them or from them, our expectation for them is a bit higher than what we're getting, right? And hence we now starting to say,
playing with
yeah,
this
there
thing.
needs to be
Yeah.
a
What is it
revisit of this, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned something about the Levites. Maybe what are the Levites actually in our day right now? Who are the Levites as we are right now in our time?
So I would say it's the pastors, the workers of the church, right? Theoretically, right?
Yeah.
Of course, now in the New Testament, the priesthood, you'd hear Peter say that you are a royal priesthood and so on. So the priesthood is given to the church in general, but it is not the whole church that will be working as administrators of the church. So there will be people who are running that department and who are pastors, or so those guys would be the Levites in that sense.
Yeah.
And it is them then that a portion of the tithe should, pay his salaries. But again, there's expectation, that you must work nyana, work really hard. To work really hard. And we're not just being punitive and saying, "Aye, they are lazy," as some people have been saying. I'm not saying that by far from that, right? But I'm just saying that I think Nabo, as just for self-introspection, that, you know what, I think the work that we should be doing as pastors, right, must be far more than what we are doing.
Yes.
Right? Because, and we're not saying that it's only them who should evangelize, but because they have nothing else that they're doing,
They should be.
and I'm using that carelessly, then it's expected. I'm gonna get in trouble for this.
I got that.
I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
But it's true in a way.
Yeah.
In a way, honestly.
Then it's like, do a self-introspection, then you're like, you know what, I need to actually really work harder than the average Christian.
Yeah.
Because the rest of us will need to do our own businesses now and go to our own furrows there, working and other, things that give us a source of income, work our land. But when, because you're not, again, you're Levite. So Levites had no land. So theoretically, you have no land, you have nothing else. You only focus on this work. And so if you are focusing on this work, then you commit yourself to it and just really push, right? And again, we're not saying that the rest of the members must just sit down and let you work alone. Of course, we work as a team, but you can just arrange, okay, Mfundo, today I need you to walk with me, right? But tomorrow it's you, Andrew. The other day it's Mang Mang. So that we work together, but I, as the pastor, I'm leading the whole process. I'm running, harder than everyone else because I'm committed to this full time than everyone else. Yeah.
To bring in maybe this question, I don't know if it's really a question because we've actually answered to say that regardless of how the church it's using the money, you should, as a person, still return the tithe, regardless of how the next person use it. But then maybe to bring in and support what you're saying, there are people who are not having much, they genuinely don't have much, and maybe they even have kids to support, they have something they must do with the money, and there's still the tithe that needs to be given to the church. So I want to know, to someone who's sitting out there and they're like, I don't have much, now it becomes a bit of a reason not to bring. And now when you look at the system and how things are, how fair? I don't know if you guys will have the answer to this, but is it fair though for them to still bring faithfully to a system that misuse the money so much?
Okay, I'm gonna make two examples.
Right.
There's a widow that so Jesus is sitting around or next to the treasury thingy where people throw in money. So he's sitting there. And he's watching, and his disciples are also somewhere around there, and he's watching people come and return. And then there's a widow who comes, she has nothing.
Okay.
She has nothing. And then Jesus, and then she gives her all. This is all she had. And then Jesus says she gave more than anyone else, right? And then he blesses her, of course. By blessing her, he speaks well of her and so forth. That's the first point I want to make. So the point being that, again, goes back to that first point that we made, that tithe is an expression of faith. How she returned her last cent, even to a system that did not take care of her, right? Because the system did not, because again, she was supposed to be given something, because tithe was supposed to give to the poor, but she never received anything. Instead, it was going to the pockets of these priests and so forth. And they were corrupt now, boy. There was tax now. There was temple tax. So it's not just tithe. Now there's tax. There's this. There are many other things that. Now, here's where I'm going with this. That despite the corruption of the system, she still came and offered, and I'd say returned tithe, and offered her all, right? And God saw that, right? And I believe that God responded to that in the sense that, Malachi chapter 3, return ye my tithe and see if I will not open the floodgates of heaven.
Definitely,
That's the one. Then the second reference I want to make, again, is a widow. there's a widow. I think I don't know if it's Elisha or Elijah. They confuse me a lot. The stories.
No, it was Elisha.
Because the stories typically, because remember, Elisha took over from Elijah. So, and when he left his cloak, his garment to Elijah for Elisha, he then had a double of it. Because he asked him, what do you want? He said, I want double of your power, right?
Okay.
So he then had double of his power. So everything Elijah did, Elisha did twice, right? Even resurrection, he did twice. Even at his death, Elisha's bones touched someone who was dead and came back to life, right? So again, the concept that, so that's why I keep confusing them. But now, one of them, I think it's Elisha. There's a widow, I think it's Elijah, I don't know. There's a widow, I think the widow of Zarephath, she didn't have money,
Food, nothing.
Nothing. It was over for her. And she was a widow, of course the husband was not there. And now she needed she first when Elijah came, I think it's Elijah, man, I don't know. One of the two.
They're the same, actually. They're the same.
When he came, remember, it's Elijah, because I think he was running away from Jezebel. Yes, it's Elijah.
Jezebel.
Running away from Jezebel, running around. So he ran to this lady, and then God said, okay, because there's a famine. So God said she's gonna feed you. Then he spoke to her, and then she made the last bread. She had the last portion of,
this is my last.
This is my last, and I'm gonna die. And then, of course, he ate, and then after that, she was so much. Again, the concept of offering, because that looks like an offering. That I'm offering this to you, a priest. Or a Levite, although he's not a Levite or a priest. Actually, but as a prophet now, symbolically.
The concept is just the same.
So I'm offering this to you, and then God blesses her instead. And so as she, in that jug, there's a small jug that she had from where the oil came. Now she had barrels and barrels of oil from that small little jug. It was flooding and moving and endlessly, right? The point again I'm making in referencing the story, that just because the system is rigged, it doesn't mean that God will not bless you for your efforts. He will deal with those that are messing up the system, right? But he will still respond to you appropriately for the effort that you have done or you have made in returning tithe, as you should.
Any thought, Mr. Mandaza, on that?
Yes. Just an emphasis. Because usually I would have even this conversation with people. They feel somehow, especially when it comes to the misuse in the church, But I always like to, encourage people when it comes to tithe. Let it be a personal thing for you. Let it be personal. Because remember, tithe also shows the relationship you have, you and God.
You alone,
You and God. So it's about you and God. It's not about anyone else around you. So the issue of tithe is about you and God. Hence, in the beginning, I was saying it's about the loyalty. It's you and God. So these examples actually shows that widow who came with everything she had, understanding that I'm serving God here. That trust to say, I'm bringing it to God. And God responded. There and there, Jesus said, she's the one who gave the most, all of you. Because, he actually gave, the corruption which was there, you find out that these people were not giving the most, to say, it was coming more money, right? But they were giving from abundance. They actually had more. So it's like a show off to say, it's not about they're giving to say it's like it's their last or it's coming from the heart. They're actually taking from too much, and they are left with too much also. They are not even helping, because that money also is supposed to help in the church. That widow remained poor. No one helped her. So they're actually taking from her, you see. So that's how it was. So, but basically, tithe is about you and God. It's about you and God. It's not about even what's happening around you. So the principle remains the same. It doesn't change. It actually shows how faithful you are to God. So I think that is where people have to be very, 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 very careful.
Yeah.
Because I understand it can discourage a lot of people. I mean, there are many things happen. People steal money. They also steal, but just remain faithful. Because it's about you. It's about yourself. It's not about anyone else. Yeah.
All right, maybe just to challenge the conversation, to make it more interesting, to say, let's take it, you are a parent. Then as a parent, you are responsible to support your child or your children. Now, when you are doing that, let's say you are doing it by giving them money, and you find out that they use the money that you're giving to them to buy drugs, to do all these sort of things that you as a parent, you would never wish that they do.
Actually condemn that.
Do you then, as a parent, continue to give the money when you see that they're taking the money and using it in ways that it should not be used? Just to challenge the conversation, to say you must remain faithful, yes, but if you can see that what is being done by the money, it's corrupt and it's wrong, do you then continue giving the money? Or perhaps you should have an alternative way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting analogy.
Yeah.
So I guess the difference is that it's God who's the parent. So it's like it's God. It's God who's the parent. So we are the children. Actually, we are given to God, right?
Okay.
But God has said that to give to me, you must put it in this bank account. But it's the bank now, the church.
Yes.
It's the bank now that's messing things up, right? It's stealing the money, maybe not stealing. I'm using this carelessly, so we're not saying that the church is stealing. Although some local churches, we know them. We can't mention names. We have some scandals here and there.
Things happen.
Yeah. So, but now, I don't think, man, Utiko would tell any one of us to stop being faithful to Him. Just because other people are now misusing our faithfulness to God, right? It's like a government. Just because the government is corrupt, you'll still be arrested if you don't return your tax or you pay your tax.
Facts.
You will still be arrested, right? Because you must do your part, right? The government will deal with those who are corrupt and arrest them, because the system itself is because it's a system that includes people that are sinful. It's not going to be perfect. In itself, the system on paper is perfect. But it's just that the people involved are not perfect. And so they will corrupt the system. So now, as the government, you'll be like, you know what? If you don't return your tax or pay your tax, I'm going to arrest you. And those who are corrupt, stealing the taxes that are paid, I'm going to arrest them. So everyone who's doing wrong, because we must all be faithful. Remember, the concept, being a steward, I'm coming back now to the concept of stewardship, that you are responsible for the things that God has given you. In the sense that even as a treasurer of the church, when that payment is made into the church account, or even if you collect that money as a treasurer, you must be responsible to deposit it, because it's also a test of your discipleship, of your, it's a test to you. So in other words, even the pastors, right, and those who are in administration, this thing of tithe is also a test to them, that how do you then treat the tithe of God that you receive on behalf of God? Do you treat it well, with respect, as you should, and allocate it the way God has intended, or do you abuse it and so forth? And that on its own, again, is a test of discipleship, just as you as an individual returning your tithe is a test of discipleship. So those are the lens I would prefer that we look at this. I think that in that way we'll have a more better understanding and framework or even perception of the whole idea.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts there? Oh.
Hence also this thing is being used even here in church. It's being used as a measurement of your faithfulness
Yes.
to God, and even like for you to be an elder, they check your records and all these things. It's just coming back to you. So this is very personal. Like to lower it down, it's a very, very personal thing. It's about you. So how it's being handled there, it's another thing. It's another thing. So it all comes back to you. You know, God as our parent, and us as children misbehaving. Even also God, you know, we sin every day. But to be honest, God still blesses us. Also going to your question, that one. It doesn't mean that also as a parent now you must stop your responsibility to be a parent now to the child. So of course you can, you know, discipline is there. You can tell that, I know I'm blessing you, but please. But you can still what? Bless. So God bless us every day. Some blessings we don't even see them, but God still what? Continue to bless. So us now as his children, we can just do our part.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And to even add to what he's saying, I'm digressing a bit now. So on the point that you made about the records, I wish we could, you know, as a church, we could beef that up a bit, right? The record. Because I know in the nominating committee, they check, is he faithful, right? And although it's true that it is a proxy for faithfulness, because you can say, okay, this one has been faithful to God, right? But we don't know other things, right? I wish they could broaden it, so it's so that it becomes, are you faithful in the books, number one, and then maybe they can interview your wife and kids.
Yes,
but remember, it's an interesting.
Remember, funny things happen.
Paul says that it must be a husband of one wife who rules his house, right? Who does not drink, who's not short-tempered. There's a long list.
It's a very long one.
So we must use all the, not just faithfulness to tithe and other things that are not important. No. We must say, okay, let's interview
children.
Let's say the short-tempered. You ask for stories, but tell us the story, my sister, so that in case Naish is being biased, she just doesn't want her dad to be in the leadership, but she's just exaggerating. You know, teenagers can exaggerate things. So now, as a logical, reasonable person, you'll assess, okay, here she's exaggerating. This one is a rebellious teenager. But you'll be like, okay, here at this point I hear it. Let's check the mother or the wife. Oh, the wife is saying X, Y, Z. If you're not married, we check the parents, or we check your siblings or your friends. The point I'm making is that we should broaden that criteria, not just tithing. But that was a by the way.
All right, to someone who's not working, okay, I want to know actually to say, is tithe expected to everyone, even if you don't have an income? Or you don't even, in the olden days, you should at least have some land and where you have the cows and I don't know. So if someone is it still expected of you if you don't have a job in this time of ours? I want to talk about the old time.
I would want to say God will never ask you out of nothing. Like he would not expect you to bring something, whereas
He's not given you.
Yes. Okay. So God doesn't operate that way. Hence he says it's actually clear. It's a tenth from what you have. So God is not asking from what you don't have. So if you don't have, it's not a problem.
But I wanted to add to something, because I think I also want to touch on something else, right? And I totally agree with you, by the way, 100%. Also, now, if you're a student, or even if you're not working, let's say you're not a student or you're not working, but there is some income you get. Let's say you get NSFAS.
Yeah.
A student was a good example because there is some income they're getting, although that income is not income in the sense of labor. There was labor,
Yes.
and it's a reward for labor. No, it's just donations essentially, if you please. Whether from parents or those ones must tithe.
Okay.
Those
Yeah.
ones must tithe because the principle of tithing is that whatever you get,
Give
That's
10.
the principle.
that's the principle.
Whatever
And
you
and
get.
and here I'm not talking about where you are given. Your mother says, "Hey, go buy electricity." No, we're out of electricity, and then they say, "Here's 10 rand. Go buy electricity for the house." Then when I want to tithe on that. No. You were sent. It's not your money.
not yours.
It was not given to you to choose what to do with it. No.
It has a specific.
It has a specific, and it's not yours. It was
Yeah.
not given. You're not given money, your pocket money.
Yeah.
But if you're given money, that's yours. It's your pocket money that you're gonna chow. You're gonna buy clothes, or you're gonna buy whatever groceries, and you buy
Yeah.
airtime or whatever. You must tithe.
Oh.
Because
You must.
the
Yeah.
faithfulness starts in small things. When God sees that you are faithful in the small, He will give you the big.
Yeah.
He will
Yeah.
give you the big.
It's like
but
that.
if you have not received anything, to his point, if you have not received anything, God would not expect you to return because there's nothing to return, because you're returning what's His. He must first give to you,
Yes.
which is His, and then you give it what is His.
What
back.
it is.
Or maybe to bring it to us, have you ever struggled to give back to God?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a struggle.
We all did.
Thank you, man, my brother.
It's very spiritual, man. It's a spiritual thing.
Especially when I was much younger, my brother.
And so to bring in a follow-up question,
Yeah.
what do you think makes us as people struggle or feel like, hey, giving back? What brings that feeling of,
I think-
of struggliness?
I think
in
for
us?
me, ne,
Yeah.
he goes through it.
Yeah.
For me, it's faith, my brother. It's the lack of faith, lack thereof,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you're like, hey,
Hey,
the economy. If you're like,
Yeah.
no.
hey, the economy.
Yeah.
And you don't think that God will, you know, sometimes, bruh,
Yeah.
God will bless the little thing that you have, such that it sustains you throughout the month, such you'll be shocked, but
Hey,
how did this little thing sustain me?
Yeah, pass.
And think about the woman, the widow of Zarephath.
Yeah.
That little jug
Yeah.
filled drums of oil
Yeah.
that she sold then to the marketplace to make money.
Yeah.
Drums, that little thing,
Yeah.
jug, it was overflowing. It did not stop, right?
Yeah.
Again, the point being made here is that we don't have faith.
We do
We think
not.
that
Yeah.
I'll die if I give away this, so I'd rather just keep it to myself. And God is like, no, test me, test my faithfulness.
Yeah.
Don't you want to test if I'm faithful? If I'm faithful to my word, it's my word that I'm guaranteeing to you.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
So even to the wealthy, it says, honor. This is Proverbs 3 verse 9 to 10. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. You know. So, hence I was saying, it's about faith.
Yeah.
This is about like what people don't realize actually with tithe. It's actually testing where do you stand? Are you on God's side or the other side? So people don't realize that. It's a test of faith.
Yeah.
Who are you trusting? So tithe also it also sort of like expose the trust you have
To God.
to God.
Yeah.
How much trust do you have in God? So maybe with your maybe with the 100 rand you have,
Aish.
how much trust do you have towards God? You see. So it's all about you. It all comes back to you. We can argue, we can say things, we can say about the misuse of the money in church, but it all comes back to you personally. How are you trusting God? Because the principle remains the same. What God said, how the money flows, it comes to the church, it's spread, in different departments and whatever. But besides all that, taking all of that aside, it's you and God.
Yeah. I know you're
It's
right.
you and God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in conclusion, anything you feel maybe we have left out in the conversation, maybe we should add?
No, not really. Just, I guess, just final remarks.
Yeah.
I guess from me. So I know people keep, I mean, the topic of tithing has been controversial. I think
Yeah.
ever since COVID, or maybe even pre-COVID, but at least in my view, I saw it really explode during COVID because everyone now was locked somewhere at home,
Yeah, yeah.
and so now we're socializing on social media, and on social media we write, so things that are written are permanent,
Yeah.
and they can be seen by many people. So the conversations that maybe the thoughts were there, but quietly, because I need
Yeah.
to tell you, then you would need to tell him. But if you write, then all of you can see it at once.
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So maybe then the conversation exploded in that way. I don't know, but I saw it post-COVID. I'm like, hi man, this thing is an issue, ne?
Go on.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
yeah.
a worship service. It's done at some point in some farm here in Pretoria, where I think the theme was just after COVID. The theme was, "Give me Jesus and gold." I was like, what? You know, so what? And a friend of mine was like, let's go. I'm like, no, never. Do it up, boy. I mean, the song says, take the world, but give me Jesus. I'm thinking, when now you want to say, give me Jesus and gold, this is it's mocking to some extent, and
Yeah.
very blasphemous to say the least. So the point I'm making is that now conversations around tithing and money, and we must make money, and Abraham was rich, and Mang was rich, and Solomon is the richest man in history. What? I'm like, okay, why are all these conversations now springing up and an issue? And then the concept of tithing was now a big hoo-ha. Why are we returning money to the church?
Yeah.
Because God does not need money. Does He not say that He has a sheep, cattle in 1,000 hills? Then if He needed any offering from us, do you think He would tell us? So why are we busy giving
They're
God?
even twisting that.
Like, I was like,
They twist it. You see?
Happening?
but I was shocked, bro. And then the conversations exploded and exploded.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're talking about, no, Christ died on the cross. There's no need for tithing. Tithing was abolished by the cross, and all sorts of things, right? And so it also made me just say, you know what, I need to step back from some of these
Yeah.
activities and all these events and gatherings that have these things that are odd. So, and many people concluded that no, there's no need for tithing, right? But you read it in Hebrews, right? And in Hebrews, the framing there of the text is passive in the sense that it's not that Paul is telling us something we don't know. He's commenting on something that he assumes that we know and we are doing. He's just saying, okay, now that you return tithe, here it's received by mortal men, but there in heaven, symbolically, it's received by He who lives forever. You know, so it then shows that no, Paul assumes that we will continue. It's like the Sabbath when Jesus says that in Matthew 24, He says, make sure that. Pray rather that you don't run away when you run to the hills and the mountains. You don't run on Sabbath. And Jesus there, the assumption in his language is that no, the Sabbath will continue, right, to be kept. You must just pray that. He's not saying that, okay, guys, to you living in the last days, now I'm giving you a command to keep the Sabbath. No, it's always been there, and it continues to be kept. At least it's expected to continue to be kept throughout, and hence the comment being very passive. It's not a command to now start keeping the Sabbath as though Jesus had to see the need to tell us again to give. No. I told you in Sinai. In fact, I instituted the Sabbath in the Garden of Eden when I created the world. So since 6,000 years ago, at least, the Sabbath, existed. So again, we need to be faithful to God, right? Because this is an expression of faith. Because you cannot talk about tithing without talking about the priest. Faith, yes, but
yes.
also the priest. Because the idea is that you return tithe to a priest. If Christ is the high priest, then we return tithe to the priest that is Christ. And so if we believe that we have a priesthood in Jesus, then tithing is connected there. It's like saying that, no, we believe that we have a priest, but we don't believe that Jesus is interceding for us. I'm like, what do you mean?
What do you think?
The priest intercedes, the
Yeah.
priest receives tithe, the priest cleanses the sanctuary, the priest. So then, so it's the function of the priest. So we must be in our personal internal channels accept that tithe is binding. It's just we just want to be unfaithful.
So much.
We just want to be
So much.
unfaithful.
So
That's
much.
it.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Mr. Mandaza?
It's just last remarks. So, I mean, let's because this is very spiritual. Let's pray about this.
Yeah.
When we pray, that's where we get our strength from, and ask God. Because I mean, with our human effort, we can't. We are struggling.
Yeah.
Even the church records itself, it shows we are really struggling. So it's a prayer matter. I think it's actually something which we need to pray about and ask God to say, God, please help us here, because this is about us and God. This is about us and God. It's not about anyone else. It's you. The focus is you and God.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a question from my mind that came as you're speaking before we close to say, do you think tithe and offering, if you are unfaithful in bringing it, can lead or can condemn you in ways that you will miss heaven?
That's an interesting one. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, so maybe let me share my thoughts on this, right?
Yeah.
The acts we do, I'm going to start with the basics. The acts we do, this includes tithes, but I'm going to refer to tithes in a moment.
Yeah.
But the acts we do are evidence of our faithfulness. Let me put that differently. The acts we do, we act, by act I mean do good deeds. So the deeds we do are not so that we are saved, but are because we are saved. So things like not lying, not murdering, I'll start with the basic stuff before we get to the tithing and its complexity. Just those things. I don't not murder and not lie because I want to be saved. No. I'm doing those things because I'm saved. So I've
And because
accepted
you love
Jesus.
God.
Exactly. So because I've accepted Jesus, right? So now Jesus says, by their fruit you will know them. So by the fruit, the action, right? Then these are indications that I have truly accepted Jesus. I have become faithful, right? So this, I would argue, includes tithe, right? It speaks to my level of faith. I trust God. I know that God has my back. I know that He would never. There are people who would be unemployed for years, but they've never slept without food. I mean, the woman who had an issue of blood for 12 years, but she never died. I mean, who bleeds for 12 years and not die? Honestly, you show me one person who will
Never
bleed
happen,
for 12 years. Women, now this is a controversial one. Women bleed for just a few days, a week at most, and they need to recover. You can study the physiology of a woman. They need to recover that blood, So the point I'm making, and it needs to stop so that it recovers. My point is,
But for 12
years. And that speaks to the sustaining hand of God, that God had kept her, despite her, so despite her, the condition, but God has still kept her alive. It was a miracle on its own. Miracle on its own. So the point I'm making in this is to say that those who say that, look, I don't trust God, right? But God can keep you, even in that little income that you have. Says, you know what? Like the widow of Zarephath, like, you know what? You have a little jar, right? Yeah, just pour it. continue pouring it, you will see. And then as you pour, you're like, hey man, there's more. This thing is not ending.
happening?
But it's little.
Yeah.
It was just to sustain you for that specific day. In fact, that's why she says herself that no, this little jar here is just for
Me
today.
and my son, and
And then we
eat,
die.
Then we die.
You know, so
Yeah.
for me, so to answer your question directly, I had to first lay the foundation and explain. But to answer your question directly, I think that it is not necessarily that we will not go to heaven because we didn't return tithe, but it would be because we did not have faith in Jesus, and the evidence there being the lack of tithe.
Yeah.
That the son did not have faith, because after all, John 3:16, so that whomsoever believes. So the idea is belief, and the belief, by the way, does not just mean accepting Jesus, but not accepting anything that comes with Jesus. That means I must accept that Jesus is powerful. I'm not just accepting the fact that he's my
just died for
atonement.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also powerful. I must accept that. That's faith.
able.
I must believe that he's wise. He knows things I don't know. He understands complexities, and he knows better than I do.
Yeah,
I must
yeah,
understand that he is forever. He lives in the past eternity and is going to live forever in eternity. So I must be relaxed in as far as longitude of life is concerned. You know, so when you accept Christ, the concept that so that whomsoever believes in him may have eternal life. It's very holistic, that you must just believe everything that has to do with Christ, including that I must trust that he will sustain me even if I return these 2 coins, like the woman, that widow who, she just threw in those 2 coins. It's like,
The last.
God will do.
and then she walked away.
You know what you just said now did help me, even me now as an individual, in ways, even though if it's not about tithing, maybe also to you to say it does speak to many avenues, to say it's not only about tithe, but also maybe your faith in him, So I don't know, Mr.
Yeah,
Mandaza.
maybe just to add, that's why the devil will be against those who keep the commandments and having the faith of Jesus.
Because the commandments
So it's very key,
are an expression of the faith. Sorry to interject.
Yeah, no, that's
The commandments, we keep the commandment because we have the faith.
of Jesus.
Jesus.
So that's all. That's the issue here. Yeah.
All right. Tithe and offering. Do tithe, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And from Rhythm and Charts, we out. Yeah. Guess who?